Hi, and welcome to the second session of the Mortgage Administrator online event. I'm Shakina Tawahene, Commercial Editor at Mortgage Solutions. I hope you enjoyed the first presentation of the morning. This session will be on case packaging and getting it right the first time to avoid delays. There'll be chances to ask questions at the end, so don't forget to put them in the box on your screen. I'll now hand over to Kaylee Foley, Business Development Manager at the Mortgage Lender. Thank you.
I'm Kaylee Foley, Business Development Manager from the Mortgage Lender. I'm going to run through a presentation with you this morning based around packaging. So I am just going to share my screen so that I can bring the presentation up. So this is the lending lowdown. And today what I'm going to run through with you are top tips for success with your packaging, self-employed, what we're looking for in any accounts, tax calculations, your customer profiling, and a residential checklist. So the first thing that I'm going to run through with you are any top tips to submitting your cases. First thing, which is the golden rule, is concentrate on the checklist. Never differ from the checklist. Always stick to what is on there. You will receive a checklist at the end of the case submission. This will not be emailed to you, so always stick to what is on the checklist at the end of the submission, and always try and upload all of the documents together. Only ever give us what we ask for. Don't ever upload anything further. And if there is anything that's a little bit unusual, then just give us a reason via the notes section on the page. If there's anything that you're unsure of, just give us a call. You can either speak to myself, your BDM that's in your area. We have the hub and telephone BDMs, and you do also have access directly with the underwriting team. Okay. So first things to look for in your customer profiling is the transactions on your pay slips and your bank statements. Just have a look out for things like perfect numbers. So say, for example, you've got 3 pay slips, which are the exact same figures on the tax and the national insurance. So £150 every single month or every single week, for example. Always have a look at things like high balances in current accounts. So just check that that's matching up to the salary that's being paid. So somebody, for example, that was earning £25,000 having £70,000-£80,000 in their bank balance. Just have a look through whether or not that makes sense. Look out for things like no day-to-day transactions on the bank accounts as well. So if you had a customer who was being paid on a monthly basis and there was nothing else coming in and nothing else going out, maybe just the odd direct debit. On your self-employed cases, have a look at the turnover compared to the bank statements. So is there a high turnover coming into those bank statements, large lump sums? The tax return states very different. Another thing that we do tend to get a lot of is dummy data. So say, for example, you don't have a customer's phone number. So on a regular basis, the same contact number, say the office number, is going into a lot of different cases. That is something that does get picked up, and that can cause further delays for the customer and yourself. Just ask yourself the question, does it look right? If it doesn't, then ask the customer what the reason is behind it. Okay. The next part is proof of deposit. Now, this is something that we tend to go back on a lot. It's one of the most common issues that we do have on our applications, and it can cause a lot of delays. One of the biggest points on deposit is that we get an application that's submitted where the broker has selected savings rather than it being a gift. Now, on a deposit, what we are looking for, if the case is using savings, is just the bank statement to evidence the deposit account. If you look at that and you think it doesn't make sense, so again, for example, customer having a deposit of 50, 60,000, yet they're a young person, they may be earning a lower income, Does that make sense? Is it plausible that they have saved that amount, or could it be from a gift? If that's the case, I would go back and just double check, maybe ask for a build-up of funds. It may be that if it doesn't make sense to us, we will ask for a build-up of funds. And in most cases, you do see that there is a lump sum that's come into the account from family member. Now, having had a look at some of the facts from Legal in General, Bank of Mum and Dad is actually one of the largest mortgage lenders in the UK, the 11th largest, in fact. So it tends to be that the deposits do come from a gift, in which case we'll probably ask for a gifted deposit form as well as a bank statement from the donor. If that's the case, we obviously will ask for further details. So we will try our hardest to get the donor's ID electronically. If we struggle with that, we will ask for a copy of the ID, which must be certified, and that's the donor's ID. Along with that, again, we'll ask for a gifted deposit form. One thing to look out for on this, which is another thing we tend to go back on a lot, is whether that bank statement that the deposit is coming from is a joint account. You might get a case where deposit is purely coming from mum or dad. However, it is coming from their joint account, in which case I would get the deposit form signed by both. What we also look for is the deposit coming from the bank account. It doesn't necessarily need to have been transferred yet, but it would be ideal for us. Okay, so moving on to your checklist items. What you will see on the checklist at the end of your case submission is each section. So your income, for example, if the income is self-employed income, we can use a number of different documents. So it depends on what you're using. If you have somebody who is a sole trader or even a limited company where you're only using the salary and div, we can look at the tax calc and overview. One thing to look out for on that is to make sure that that tax calc and overview matches. So another thing that we tend to get issues on is where the overview is maybe a couple of pound out. Make sure that those documents match and the figures match on each of them. If it's a limited company case and you are using the salary and the net profit for the customer, because we will look at the latest year's figures and the net profit before tax, you must make sure that that customer's accountant has a recognised qualification. We do have a list of this online on the criteria, but there are certain qualifications that we won't accept, so make sure you double check in that. If your customer is an employed customer, then it's the latest 2 pay slips. Again, your deposit, like I say, if it's a savings, it's the latest bank statement showing that those funds are in the account. If it's a gift, then we want the gifted deposit form and the bank statement showing the transfer. You might have a customer who is selling their current residential property and buying a new one, in which case we will probably ask for a memorandum of sale. Okay. Always check your applicant's details are correct on the case. This could cause refers. We do tend to get a lot of referred cases because things like date of birth or spelling of names are incorrect. If we ask for ID and residency, it always needs to be certified. Okay, so just make sure you look for things like passports where the corners are not cut off. So we do tend to get a lot of documents where the end of the document is cut off, therefore we can't see numbers on it. Make sure it's fully certified with your name, signature, FCA number and name of firm. And always double check your commitments. Again, this is something else that we tend to go back on, or maybe causes a referred application purely because the commitments that are submitted onto the case don't match up to the credit file, in which case the system will automatically duplicate those commitments and could potentially cause an application refer or decline because of affordability, because it's double counting them. If there is anything else, capital raising, for example, give us the reason. If that customer is capital raising for home improvements, break it down. What are they spending on? Are they spending 7,000 on a kitchen, 3,000 on a bathroom, and then another couple of thousand for general decorating? Just break it down. If the customer is capital raising for debt consolidation, what we will ask for is the account numbers for each account that is being consolidated, because we will list this on the offer for the solicitor to repay. So in summary on this, it's straightforward. A well-packaged case means that it's simple and more efficient service from us. We have just recently changed our system in which it means that each document must be uploaded before we touch the case. So your case will not go into an underwriting queue until each document is uploaded from the checklist. Like I say, the checklist will be online on your case. It needs to go under each header and cannot be uploaded as a bulk, as it, like I say, it won't go into the underwriting queue. And if you do have any questions, call your BDM, your telephone BDM, the hub, or underwriting. And that is everything from me. So, any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation, Kaylee, and I hope anyone watching found that useful. So like you said, moving on to the questions. So if anyone does have any, feel free to put them in the box on your screen and we will get to them. And any that aren't answered in this session will be answered afterwards. So the first one that we have, you did mention that sometimes support and information can help the case along. And which kinds of clients or circumstances should a mortgage administrator consider supplying additional information for?
Okay, so there will be certain cases where we may ask for certain extra bits of information. One of the things that we do tend to get a lot of is query on a sole application for a married person. This is something that tends to refer at decision in principle stage. And if it hasn't been discussed prior with your BDM, then it might be something that you need to go to at that stage. But this, again, will be something that the underwriter picks up on and may ask further questions on. So what I would suggest is adding notes onto the case just to confirm the reasons why this customer is doing a sole application when they are, jointly, married or partnered. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily need to be married customers either. So if you've got somebody who is a financial associate that would pick up, again, just partners, we will come back and question that. So it is definitely worth mentioning. Like I'd said as well, if the customer is capital raising, give us the reasons why. Note that on. We don't always ask for personal bank statements on a residential case. But there are certain times where we may ask for this. That would be if you are using benefit income, because we will take that income from the bank statements. So that might be something that doesn't show up on the checklist automatically, but I would get hold of it because it will be something that we'll use.
Okay, thank you. And the next question that we have is, how can the mortgage administrator improve their first-time right success rate? Because this is about sort of helping that cases go through quite smoothly. So
absolutely. I would definitely suggest, if it's your first case, contact your BDM and ask them to run through every single document with you. We're all more than happy to help with any packaging and getting the case through. At the end of the day, we want the case to run smoothly. We want to continue a very good relationship with each of our brokers. So we're more than happy to help, especially with the packaging process, and especially if it's your first case as well, because you don't know the processes. You don't know we work yet, you're not used to us yet. So always contact whoever you need to contact. Like I say, you've got access directly to the underwriters, you can speak to the hub, but we're always on hand to help as well.
Of course. And the next question that we have is, what is the best way to follow up on the progress of a case after it has been submitted?
So your best bet for any case updates is always to call the hub first. And that the hub have got the case in front of them at all times. If the case is a tricky one and it's maybe stuck, that's when I would say maybe get in touch with your BDM. But for case updates, always call the hub first. If you need to speak to the underwriter directly because you're not necessarily understanding one of the case updates, then I would maybe try and speak to them via the underwriting line.
Okay, that's very useful. And which missing documents or information are likely to delay a case the most? I know you said that some won't be passed through unless they've got all the documents ready, but typically, what documents do cause slowdowns?
In the past, the biggest things that have slowed us down are bank statements and deposits, and it's mainly due to errors on the key-in for deposit. And if we have asked for bank statements, things that we've picked up on the bank statements that we've gone back to ask questions on. Like I said, we don't necessarily ask for the bank statements all the time, but if we do ask for them and we see something on that bank statement that doesn't quite make sense, that's when we tend to go back quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, you did say that a case won't pass through unless all the documents are there. So do you email a checklist out on application?
No. So on application, we don't send out an email with the checklist on there. It is always on the case after submission. And like I say, each section is available for you to upload the document under. So income goes under income, bank statements under bank statements, declaration under declaration. The only 2 points that won't hold the case up at that stage is the declaration and the direct debit mandate.
Yeah, of course. And I do have another question. So how can mortgage administrators make sure that things are accurate even when they are under pressure? Because, quite a few intermediaries are under pressure at the moment. So how can they make sure they're still doing the best quality cases?
Absolutely. I've been there. And I understand it is a very high pressured job. I think especially administration is probably the most difficult. Just try and stay focused. Make sure that you are checking each document. In the end, if you spend a little bit more time on one case, it's going to save you time in the long run because it will save you time keep going back.
Yeah, of course. And that is very sort of on topic. And another one that might be sort of quite on topic as that as well is how can an administrator best manage a lender who might not be very responsive or reachable, for example, if there are any service issues?
I mean, to be honest, this time last year, it was a little bit of a crazy world. I think every lender in the UK probably had some sort of service issues. I can't really speak for other lenders, but we try and give as many options as possible for you to contact us. So like I say, you've got the option of contacting your BDM. Each BDM has their own telephone BDM as well. So there is an email address for each telephone BDM if you can't contact your field BDM. We do have the hub and we have direct access to our underwriting team. So we try and give as many routes as possible for you to contact us. In times where we have had service issues, it's never really been a problem of contact. Yeah. It's more so the actual timescales. And there are ways of us escalating cases when they are urgent.
Yeah, of course. And another issue that might arise is possibly on the client side. So what can an administrator do if a client is slow or repeatedly makes mistakes in providing their information? How can they best manage that?
It's funny you say this because I've actually had this conversation already this week. I think it's a case of being firm but fair. At the end of the day, I mean, they're your client and they're our customer as well. So we need to make sure that we are being fair with that customer. However, we need to make sure that they are fully understanding the process and the reasons why we ask for these documents, and maybe make sure that they are fully aware that this case will not progress any further and may possibly even be cancelled if they don't upload the right documents at the right times.
Yeah.
Signposting, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah, of course. And you earlier did mention about sort of the passports and the corners being cut off. How can you make sure that everything is also in the right format when you are submitting the case?
Checking, really. So if you're not really too sure whether that document is in the right format, give the hub a call, give them a ring and just double check. Should it be in a PDF version? Should it be in a Word document, etc.? When you are scanning documents in, check it. Make sure that that document looks the same as what you have in your hand, and that there's no corners missing on it, there's no glare on it. Make sure that you can see it exactly the same as you would do in real life.
Yeah, of course. And thank you very much. And I don't think we have any more questions come in, so I think it would be best to close the session there. So thank you again, Kaylee, for your presentation. And I hope everyone watching did find it useful and informative, and hopefully they can put that to practice when they're next submitting the case. So the next presentation will be with Underwrite Me, and that'll be at 11 a.m. where they'll be discussing how to process protection cases. Thank you all for joining us and for watching the session.